Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Phyllis Italiano, and I am the hostess of the show called The Democratic View. And today I have with me a very, very special woman. She's not very tall, but I got to tell you, she packs more energy in her body than anybody I know. And her name is Betty Mazur, and she is the vice chairman of the Democratic Party of East Hampton. And welcome, Betty.
Thank you, Phyllis. That is delightful and wonderful introduction.
Well, now
I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'm happy to have you, and I want to know a lot about you because the truth of the matter is, of all of the people I've interviewed, you're the only one that I never actually did any other interviews with. You know, everybody who was on this show was running,
yes.
You know, and I had interviewed them at different times for the website, and I knew a lot about them.
Yes.
But I know nothing about you, Betty.
Oh, my goodness. Well, let me see.
So where were you born and raised? Let's start there.
I was born in New York City, and I won't tell you how many years ago. And I went to school in the city. I went to college outside the city, and then I came back to Columbia. And I was surprisingly enough, a political science, I guess I would call it today, a political science major.
This is at Columbia?
This was at Barnard, and then I got my master's at Columbia in, let's see, what did they call it in those days? International relations.
Really?
Yes. Oh. But really, when I was still in high school and thinking about college, I wanted to be a veterinarian.
Oh, well, that's quite a different thing.
I wanted to be a vet because I'm a mush for dogs and cats. And
I know you are.
Animals
I always
yes,
forward things
yes,
to you
yes,
about dogs and cats.
Yes. But my guidance counselor in those days told me that there was no way I could get into vet school because my math grades were not very good. So and in those days I was less, what shall I say, assertive than I am today. And what the guidance counselor told me, I listened to. So I never pushed it.
You know, that's very interesting that you should say that because I wanted to be a politician.
Wow.
I actually wanted to go to law school and go into politics. I was president of the GO.
Oh, the GO, of course.
In high school, and I wanted, when I went to American University, to go on in that. And I remember some guy saying to me, you can't run for politics. You can't run for office.
Yeah.
You're a woman and you have no money.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh. So I gave it up.
You listened to their rules.
I listened to those rules also and gave in rather easily. And instead of going into law, I went into education. I figured, well, if I can't change the world one way, I'll change it another way. So,
well, I got into education through the back door. My mother was a kindergarten teacher, so of course she thought it would be great if I would go into teaching. But at that time, I was not interested. I was going to save the world. So I worked, right out of college, I worked for an organization called the American Committee for Cultural Freedom. And I was what they called in those days a Girl Friday, remember? I did everything, and I had no real office training.
Yes, in show business, we call that a gopher.
A gopher, yeah. And I worked with some amazing people, like Norman Thomas, and he was on the board. This was it was a group of intellectuals who, this was during the McCarthy era, who were working to get academics and scholars and people who were outside of the country to help get them into the United States so that they could work here, teach here, speak here, lecture here. And there was, you know, with all the red baiting that was going on in those days, it was difficult for some of these people to get visas. So our organization was helpful in doing that. And I once took dictation from Norman Thomas, which was quite thrilling.
You know, I'm sure there are people who are listening who never heard of it.
No, I was just thinking as I was saying that, I'm sure people
Yes.
have no idea. But it was a fun job. And then
Can you tell us who he is?
yeah, well, he was a great socialist leader in this country. And those were the days when you could say socialist without having, tomatoes, overripe tomatoes thrown at you.
Without having
Yeah,
a group of Tea Party people running after you?
Yeah, it was an interesting period. And then, well, I had gotten married when I was a senior in college. And then I had to quit this job in about my 8th month of pregnancy. And then I had 4 kids. And by the time the 4th one came along, I was getting a little antsy, and I had been doing volunteer work all the time, but I thought, well, gee, maybe it's time for me to make some money, a little bit anyway. And I started substitute teaching in my neighborhood where I lived. And I loved it. And I was told by the superintendent of this was Fort Lee, New Jersey. I was told that I should really get some education courses because I didn't have any. So I did, and I was lucky enough to do my student teaching with a wonderful, wonderful man who really taught me a heck of a lot. And he called me a couple of months later to let me know that there was an opening in Dwight Morrow High School. And then I went for an interview and stayed there for some 22 or so odd years.
You know, it's interesting how our lives are parallel. I got married in my junior year. I also have 4 children.
Huh?
And I also, as my, when I sent my youngest off to kindergarten, started my master's degree at Manhattanville to begin a teaching career because I wanted to go back to the classroom. I had been a teacher before.
Oh, you had, yes.
Yeah, I went right from American University to teaching in Montgomery County, and then said, I got to get back in the classroom.
Yeah.
I love kids, but I can't have any more.
Yeah. 4 is enough. Yeah.
4 is enough. Yeah. Let me teach them instead.
Yeah. Well, the classroom was great, and of course, I immediately got involved in the union, and that was really very educational to me. I learned a lot, and we had some wild days. It was a very interesting district,
And you had you had a very famous girl in your class?
Oh, yes. I had, Englewood being so close to New York City, we had lots of people who were interested in theater and show business. And before I started teaching there, John Travolta was a famous student there. And then when I came along, I was lucky enough to have a lovely little girl named Sarah Jessica Parker come into my sophomore honors class.
And the rest is history.
And the rest is history.
Yes. It's interesting. Now, there's a place where we parted because after I was in private ed for a long time. And then I went into public ed, and shortly after I went into public ed, I became an administrator. On the other side.
On the other side.
But I never felt I was on the other side. Well, I always felt that I was really a teacher who
that's because you came
who really was a person who was what is originally called the principal teacher.
The principal teacher.
That's right. That's what it was supposed to be, and really a leader. Because in my private school, I had that kind of background. So tell us how you got to Amagansett.
So there I was teaching in New Jersey, and the years went by, and my kids grew up, and back in 1963, we built a little house, a little beach house in Amagansett. We were looking for a rental in Montauk, because that's what we knew when my husband and I were very young. We would go out to Montauk and camp out on the sand, on the beach, in what is now here the hills.
Right.
And then when the kids came along, we thought it would be nice to come out and spend some time out here with them. And there was nothing in Montauk for us, so we found a place to rent in Amagansett. There was a piece of property down the street that the realtor showed us at the end of our month's stay, and I stood in the middle of the property and I was able to hear the ocean. And I thought, oh my God, I've died and gone to heaven. This is wonderful. So we bought the property thinking, oh, someday we'll build, someday. And the someday came faster than we thought. And after my husband passed away, none of my kids was interested in the house in New Jersey, so I sold the house and came out here to live a fantasy, to live out here.
Yes, I know that feeling, because when I bought my house in 2002, I was ready to work as an assistant principal for 10 years.
Yeah.
But I couldn't leave my house.
Yeah.
I couldn't leave East Hampton.
Yeah.
I would get backaches.
Yeah.
And I said, I gotta retire. I gotta get out of Yonkers Public Schools and go into, living
another
out
life.
there.
Yeah.
And I must say I have never regretted that decision, except once in a while I wish I had the paycheck.
Yeah. The paycheck was nice, and
And then how did you?
Well, I was always active in politics in Fort Lee. When as newlyweds, we got involved right away with the landlord of this large apartment complex that we lived in. There were rental problems, and it was a very Republican town. Fort Lee was, and I looked around and found that there was indeed a little tiny Democratic club, and I joined the Democratic Club, and within a short period of time, my husband got involved. He ran a couple of times for office, and I ran for committee person in those days, and it was much easier there. There were some sections of Fort Lee that were apartment houses, so it was very easy to go and do your campaigning, because it was concentrated, not like East Hampton, where the districts are spread out.
I was doing those petitions.
Houses few and far between. Yeah. But that became part of my life, and my husband went on to become a freeholder, county freeholder, and then he was elected to the New Jersey Assembly. So I come from a
And then when you came out here?
When I came out here, well, I actually registered to vote out here as a second homeowner before I was living here full time. Because by this time, I was really caught up in what was going on in East Hampton. It was in the middle of flux, and I felt that it needed me, it needed my work, it needed my effort to preserve what was wonderful about it, and I really wanted to do that. So I voted here, even though my paycheck at the time was coming from New Jersey. But as a second homeowner, I had that right, which segues right into something that's important for people to know here in East Hampton, that since we have many second homeowners, of course, as you know, but New York law allows the voter to choose where he or she wants to vote. If he has a second home out here, but has a place in the city, he can choose to vote and to register and vote here in East Hampton. Just during the one election cycle, of course, you only vote in one place. So it's I think the language is that as long as the second homeowner has a lasting and important attachment to the community or and as a homeowner in this town,
I should say,
we certainly have
yes,
attachment. Most people who come out here, and we have so many people who have done exactly what I did, built a home that was a second home. But my heart soon became captured by East Hampton, and that's my lasting attachment. Of course, now I'm full-time, so there's no question. But many people don't realize that New York State allows that kind of voting pattern. It does not, your home in East Hampton does not have to be considered your primary residence as long as your heart is here.
Yes, and I think one of the things that I have often said to people in doing the same kind of thing that I know you do much better than anybody I know, I have said, where does your vote have the greatest meaning?
Yes.
You know, I mean, you're one of, 10 million in New York City, and you're one of 10,000?
Well, that's the beauty part of this town. It's really a small town. And growing up in New York City, I mean, I was always, longing for green and of course, I used to be anyway, an absolute fish. I love the ocean. But when you live and vote in East Hampton, you see where your vote is going.
Yes.
You actually see it. And of course, this past November, excuse me, we saw
you don't have to tell me
what 15 votes will do.
Because I obviously, I know I keep thinking about three people I should have registered that I just didn't pursue enough. Actually, 4 now that I know of that I should have ran after and got them to sign. And I will be doing that soon because these people do need to understand that it's out here where their vote really has weight. When you're one of so many in New York City, it really is not quite so important.
It's a good thing, but it's not personal the way it is here.
Yeah, well, of course, the right to vote is precious. And, you should do that no matter where you are. But
what's also so wonderful about this town is going to board meetings. And being able to stand up and speak. If you have something to say, and to speak to the people who are elected to office, and it makes a difference. It really makes a difference.
And I think one of the things that we also have to realize is that while the election is over, the issues continue.
Yes.
And the issues really are a great deal to do with how we see this town in the future.
Exactly.
And what effort we want to put into maintaining it as it is. I had Tim Bishop here one time.
Yes.
And he was the first one who coined the phrase that I have heard, I think, 1,000,000 times since then, which is the economy. Our economy is our environment, and our environment is our economy.
Well, there's no
they are
question
two very
about
intertwined people. And as he said to me, if we didn't have the open vistas and the clear, beautiful water and the clean, lovely beaches,
it would just be another
we're not
town.
going to keep people here.
No.
They're not going to come here. They're going to go somewhere else.
No.
And we have to make sure that we guard that and keep it a small town.
It's the old goose that laid the golden egg, and this town is so blessed with natural beauty that
I know.
If one is lucky enough to live here, as you and I are, just every morning you get up and you see something beautiful.
Absolutely, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I always think about when I go away. You know, I'll go a couple of days back to Yonkers to see my family there, and when I get back, I get out of the car, it's usually late at night, and I breathe that air, and I pass by 3 Mile Harbor, and I look at the water, I open the windows. Sometimes I even pull over, you know, just to look at the bay, because it's just so spectacular.
It is.
It's such a spectacular place. And then when you drive, you know, when you're on your way west, and you start to see the creeping of, you know, Nassau County.
Suburbia,
coming closer
Suburbia.
and closer. It's really, it shakes you up. It shakes you down to your boots.
It does.
You know.
And that's, of course, what we are. When I say we, I'm speaking as a Democrat. What we feel is so important, and why it's so important to be involved.
Yes.
And be vocal, and participate in the process, so that we can maintain this very special place. Because the pressures that we face and have faced are very hard to resist for some.
Well, some people are very interested in just making money. And they can't see, as I say, around the corner to what the future will be for this area if we don't keep it.
And it's of course, this town has a tradition of being more than just a beautiful place. I mean, for a small town, we have had outstanding services, like the human services that we have offered in the past. Unfortunately, those have been condensed. I hope that we will be able to bring them back, some of the ones that we've lost. But we have to be, as citizens, we have to be watching to see that the quality of life, which includes the environment and the beauty, but also it's very important for the services that help the people who live here. It's really an unusual town in that respect. I think it's, I haven't done a study. I'm sure there have been studies made about it's a resort town, but it's more than a resort town. It's really a hometown, and it has all the qualities of what a real American hometown, small town should be.
Well, it's community. I think
is
it's
a community.
one of the key words.
It is a community.
Which is a very, very important word.
Yes.
And it's a word that has gotten a little lost in
yes,
this
it
day
has.
and age.
It has.
You know.
It has been sacrificed, I would say, in the last year or so, to forces of economics, of business.
Yes.
I guess you could use the explosion of wildness, for lack of a better word, in Montauk as an example of where community interests have been relegated to second or third place.
Yes.
In order to maintain the summer economic bonanza.
Yes, well, I know what has happened to Montauk is really very unfortunate, and hopefully the people there can turn it around. And I know I read all about Judge Cahill this week in the Star, and she seems to be, thank God, somebody standing up to these people.
She really.
And a Democrat, I might add.
Yes, indeed. She really said it as it should have been said. That this was a situation that was out of control, and the arrogance of these particular people to ignore the law and the court and just say, well, it's good for business.
Now, what the people don't also know is that you're also, and I mentioned that you were a dynamo, you are also the key organizer of campaigns. And you get those people volunteering and making
Well,
the calls.
we have a great bunch of people in this town, and we have lots of people, retired people, who have the time and energy and the experience and the desire to participate in the government process. So I'm lucky because we have a wonderful reservoir of good people to volunteer.
And we are lucky because you are so organized. I always marvel at how you have all of the wheels humming along and everybody working, and it's like, God, how does this woman do this?
Well, if you saw my desk at home, you would never say I was organized. And
well,
my kids would say, "Oh, organized? My mother?" Yeah.
My kids always say to me when they call me up and I'm not around, they say, "Busy being a Democrat?" Yes, I know. Well, we are very grateful to you for all of your energy that you do expend on behalf of the people of East Hampton, and even the ones who don't know who you are and what you're doing. Well, you are working for them, and we greatly appreciate
well,
that.
I thank you very much. I love it. I love it. It's
and I hope you will continue on with the good fight.
Well, I certainly will.
The guys who are the good guys have to go and do the fighting in this world. Well, we just were saying before, if you don't fight, then you
can't complain either.
True. Well, thank you for coming.
Is so much fun.
I appreciate having you as a guest.
I thank you, Phyllis. It was delightful.
Yes.
Thank you.
See, I told you it wouldn't hurt.